It's 4:47 in the morning at a windswept rest area outside Cheyenne, Wyoming, and a man is standing barefoot on a heated tile floor, waiting for his coffee maker to finish. Behind him, there's a king-size bed with a real mattress and a full shower with hot water on demand. Then he sits down in the driver's seat, fires up a 605 horsepower diesel engine, and his apartment pulls onto Interstate 80, doing 65 miles an hour. This is a semi-truck. It cost more than most houses in America, right around $600,000, and for 300 days out of every year, it is the only home this man has. So who spends house money on a truck? And after almost 3 decades on the road, why does he say he'd do it all over again? To understand the truck, you have to understand the man behind the wheel. Ray is 54 years old. He started driving at 26, hauling refrigerated freight out of the Midwest for a big carrier, sleeping in a factory bunk about the size of a coffin, showering at truck stops, and eating gas station food under fluorescent lights. He did that for 16 years. Then he did the thing that separates company drivers from businessmen. He bought his own truck, got his own operating authority, and became an owner-operator. That first truck was a used Peterbilt with 700,000 miles on the odometer and a heater that worked when it felt like it. But it was his. Every mile he ran went into his own pocket instead of somebody else's, and over the next decade, mile by mile, load by load, he built toward the machine he drives today. That machine started life as a Peterbilt 589, the long hood truck that turns heads at every fuel island in the country. The chassis alone, spec'd with the big Cummins engine, an 18-speed transmission, and heavy-duty everything, ran him about $230,000. Then, the truck went to a custom sleeper shop, the kind of specialty builder that takes a working semi and grafts a genuine living space onto the frame. The sleeper itself, a 156-inch custom unit with full plumbing and electrical, added another $250,000 to $280,000 before options. Custom paint, chrome, an upgraded interior, and the electronics package pushed the final number past $600,000. For comparison, the median American house sold last year for less than that. Ray signed the paperwork anyway, and he'll tell you it was the easiest financial decision he ever made. That sounds insane until you see what's inside. But you can't just order one of these off a lot. The custom sleeper world is a small, almost secretive corner of American manufacturing, a handful of specialty shops scattered across Indiana and the Midwest where craftsmen build these rolling homes essentially by hand. The waiting list runs a year or more. Ray flew out twice during his build, walking the shop floor while welders framed out the steel skeleton of his future bedroom and cabinet makers fitted real hardwood by hand. Every buyer's truck is different. Some want a second bunk for a driving partner. Some want a full residential recliner bolted to the floor in front of a 60-inch television. Ray has met husband and wife expedite teams who ordered theirs with a washer and dryer combo so they never have to sit in a truck stop laundromat again, and he's met owners who put $250,000 into chrome and paint alone because the truck doubles as their business card at every shipper's dock in the country. The shop asked Ray one question before anything else. How do you actually live out there? Then they built the answer. 6 months later, a machine rolled out of that Indiana building that no factory in the world produces. One truck built for one man's life. And when you step inside it, you understand exactly where the money went. Step through the door behind the cab and the first thing that hits you is the ceiling height. A grown man can stand up straight, stretch, and never touch anything. The sleeper is 13 feet of living space, roughly 100 square feet, which sounds small until you realize every inch was designed by people who understand life on the road. Along the driver's side, there's a real kitchen with a 2-burner induction cooktop, a convection microwave, a stainless sink with running water, and a residential refrigerator with a freezer big enough to hold 2 weeks of food. The countertops are actual granite, not a sticker that looks like granite, stone. Across from the kitchen sits a dinette booth that converts into a desk where Ray handles his dispatching, his invoices, and his logbook paperwork. Behind a pocket door is the part that makes veteran drivers shake their heads in disbelief. A full wet bath with a toilet, a sink, and a shower with an on-demand water heater. 100 gallons of fresh water ride in tanks under the floor. Gray water and waste get pumped out at RV stations. At the back, a king bed sits over massive storage bays, with a memory foam mattress that cost more than some drivers' entire sleepers. Powering all of it, a diesel generator and a bank of batteries with an inverter keep the lights, heat, and air conditioning running all night without idling the main engine. Between the auxiliary power and the insulation, Ray sleeps in silence at 70 degrees, whether it's a July heat wave in Phoenix or a January blizzard in Fargo. The insulation deserves its own mention because it's the difference between camping and living. The walls are packed with the same closed-cell foam used in high-end motorhomes, and the windows are double-pane. Park this truck next to an idling reefer unit screaming all night at a crowded truck stop, close the door, and the noise simply disappears. On the roof, a satellite internet dish keeps Ray connected in places where cell towers give up, which means he can video call his wife from a gravel lot in Montana, stream a ball game in the middle of the Utah desert, and book his next load from anywhere in North America. Cameras cover every angle of the truck, feeding to a monitor by the bed, because a machine worth this much attracts attention in the wrong parking lots. Everything, the heat, the lights, the tank levels, the generator, runs through a touchscreen panel smaller than a cookie sheet. It is, in every sense that matters, a smart home. It just happens to have a fifth wheel bolted to the back of it. But a beautiful truck standing still doesn't earn a dime. What this life is actually like comes down to the clock. Every working day of Ray's life is governed by federal hours of service rules, and those rules are unforgiving. He can drive a maximum of 11 hours within a 14-hour window, and then he must shut down for 10 consecutive hours. No exceptions, no fudging, because an electronic logging device wired into the engine records everything. So the day starts early. Before sunrise, Ray is outside with a flashlight doing his pre-trip inspection, checking tires, brake lines, lights, fifth wheel, and load securement, the same walk-around ritual he's performed more than 8,000 times in his career. Then the 14-hour clock starts, and it does not stop. Morning is the good driving, empty highways, sunrise over the plains, a thermos of coffee from his own kitchen instead of a $4 cup from a truck stop. He'll cover 300 miles before a lot of people finish their first meeting. Around midday comes fuel, and fueling a truck like this is an event. The tanks hold nearly 300 gallons, and filling them from empty costs over $1,000. Lunch happens in his own dinette, grilled chicken and rice he cooked himself. Because a man who eats truck stop food for 300 days a year is a man planning his own heart attack. Then more miles, and the miles are never just miles. Weigh stations flash their signs and pull him in at random. Scale operators checking his axle weights against the 80,000-pound federal limit. A few times a year, an officer waves him around back for a full Department of Transportation inspection, crawling under the trailer with a creeper and a flashlight while Ray's clock keeps burning. One bad brake adjustment, one worn tire, and the truck sits until it's fixed, with the violation following his record for years. This is why the pre-trip ritual matters, and why veterans like Ray treat it like religion after 28 years out here. Then there's the weather, the variable no logbook accounts for. In a single week, Ray might climb through a whiteout on Donner Pass with chains on the drives, cross a 100-degree desert where the pavement shimmers like water, and outrun a line of black thunderstorms across Oklahoma with the trailer rocking in the crosswind. A car driver pulls over when it gets bad. A man hauling a load with a deadline makes judgment calls at 65 miles an hour, and his career depends on making the right one every single time. The afternoon is where the discipline shows, staying alert through hour 8 and 9, managing traffic through Denver or Dallas, watching the clock, always watching the clock. Because by late afternoon, every driver in America is playing the same desperate game, finding somewhere legal to park for the night. And that's the part of this life that no amount of granite countertop can fix. But before we get to the ugly side of trucking, look at the numbers that make a $600,000 truck a rational business decision, because this is where it gets interesting. Ray runs specialized and expedited freight, the loads that pay premium rates because they have to arrive on time, every time. In a good year, his truck grosses between $250,000 and $300,000. Out of that comes fuel, his single biggest expense at $70,000 or more per year. Insurance takes another $15,000 to $20,000. Maintenance, tires, permits, and tolls take their share, and the truck payment itself runs several thousand a month. What's left over is a solid six-figure living, earned without a boss, without an office, and without a commute. Because the commute is the job. Now add what the truck saves him: a company driver or a regular owner-operator living out of a basic sleeper spends real money surviving on the road. Hotel rooms when the bunk gets unbearable, $30 to $50 a day eating at restaurants and truck stops, $10 here for a shower, $15 there for parking. Ray's rolling home wipes most of that out. He figures the truck saves him $1,500 to $2,000 every single month in food and lodging alone, and on top of that, the entire machine is a business asset, with the depreciation, the fuel, the maintenance, all of it working for him at tax time in ways his accountant gets genuinely excited about. Spread over a 15-year service life, which these hand-built trucks routinely achieve, the luxury sleeper doesn't just pay for itself. It comes out ahead. If you're finding this look inside the trucking life worth your time, hit subscribe. There's a new deep dive into how working Americans really live and earn every single week. Now, before anybody sells the house and heads for truck driving school, understand that this business bites back. When something breaks on a truck like this, it breaks expensively. A single steer tire runs $600. A turbo failure can mean $5,000 and 3 days of lost revenue sitting at a dealership. An engine overhaul on the Big Cummins is a $30,000 conversation, and Ray has had that conversation before. That's why he keeps a repair fund with tens of thousands in it at all times, untouched, waiting for the day the dashboard lights up somewhere outside Amarillo. And then there's the freight market itself, which moves in brutal cycles. When rates are high, owner-operators print money, and everyone with a commercial license wants their own truck. When rates crash, and they crash hard every few years, thousands of those same owner-operators go bankrupt, their repossessed trucks flooding the auction yards. Ray has survived every downturn since the 90s for one reason. He runs the business like a business, keeps his costs low, keeps cash in reserve, and never bet the truck on a hot market lasting. The drivers who treated the boom years like they'd never end are the ones whose trucks he sees at auction. The $600,000 machine only works because the man driving it did the boring math first. By 7 in the evening, Ray's driving clock is spent, and the hardest part of his day begins. The United States has roughly 11 truck drivers for every one legal truck parking space, 11 to 1. That means every evening, hundreds of thousands of exhausted drivers are circling crowded truck stops and rest areas like it's musical chairs with 80,000-pound chairs. Show up after 8 o'clock in most of the country and you're gambling. Some nights Ray pays $20 to reserve a spot. Some nights he shuts down an hour early just to guarantee one, sacrificing miles and money for the privilege of parking legally. And some nights there's simply nothing, and drivers end up on highway shoulders and abandoned lots, which is exactly how tired men get hurt. The parking crisis is the #1 complaint of American drivers, and no luxury sleeper solves it. The truck also can't solve what this job does to a body. Sitting 11 hours a day, decades of vibration through the spine, irregular sleep in a different state every night. Drivers as a group have some of the worst health outcomes of any profession in the country, and Ray has watched friends his age retire early with ruined backs, or worse, not retire at all. That's why the kitchen matters so much to him, why he walks laps around the truck at every stop, why he keeps dumbbells in a storage bay. That's what the $600,000 is really for. It buys the ability to live like a human being in a job that grinds humans down. And some nights, the road reminds you who's really in charge. 2 winters ago, a storm shut down Interstate 80 across southern Wyoming, and Ray sat parked on the shoulder in a line of trucks for 31 hours while the wind screamed at 70 miles an hour and the snow buried the guardrails. Drivers in standard sleepers rationed fuel, idling their engines in shifts, eating cold food, and using bottles for a bathroom. Ray cooked a hot dinner, took a shower, watched a movie, and slept in a warm bed while the storm hammered the windows. When the interstate reopened, he pulled out rested while men half his age staggered out of their cabs looking like they'd survived something. That storm, he says, is the night the truck finished paying for itself in his mind. Then there's the quiet, beautiful sunsets over the Rockies, sure, but also 14 hours a day alone with your own thoughts, holidays spent at a rest area in Nebraska, and phone calls where your wife tells you about a life you're only visiting. Which brings us to the number in the title that deserves the hardest look: 300 days. Do that math the other direction. 300 days on the road means 65 days at home per year, 5 days a month. Ray was on the road when his daughter took her first steps. He heard about it over the phone somewhere in Tennessee. He's missed birthdays, anniversaries, funerals, and more Little League games than he can count. And there is no truck expensive enough to buy those back. He knows it. His wife of 29 years knows it. They built a life around it anyway, with long phone calls every night, and her flying out a few times a year to ride along for a week, sitting in the passenger seat of the rolling home her husband's absence paid for. Home time itself is a strange thing for a man like Ray. Those 65 days a year don't arrive in one comfortable block. They come in fragments. 4 days here after a long western run, a week there around Christmas if the freight cooperates. And veteran drivers will tell you the first day home is always the hardest, because a man who has been alone in a cab for 6 weeks doesn't switch back to husband and neighbor the moment he sets the parking brake. His body is home. His head is still somewhere on Interstate 40. The paid-off house in Missouri, the daughter's college degree, the retirement account, all of it came out of that truck. And Ray's wife will tell you plainly that she married a trucker, knowing what that meant. What she won't tell you, but what sits behind her eyes when she says it, is what 30 years of goodbyes at the end of the driveway actually cost. Ask Ray why he doesn't come off the road, take a local job, sleep in his own house every night, and he'll give you an answer that a lot of men his age will understand even if they'd never live it. He tried a local gig once, years ago. Lasted 4 months. He felt like a caged animal. Out here, he answers to no one. He picks his loads, sets his pace, and watches the country roll past his windshield. Deserts and mountains and wheat fields that office workers only see in screensavers. The truck moves 80,000 pounds of the things America needs: food, machinery, medicine. And Ray gets paid well to be the man moving it. There's a word for what he has out here. And it isn't comfort, and it isn't money. It's sovereignty. The $600,000 bought him a life where the terms are his. So come back to that rest area outside Cheyenne, 4:47 in the morning, a man standing barefoot on a heated floor waiting for his coffee. From the outside, it's just another big Peterbilt in a row of sleeping trucks, chrome catching the first gray light. From the inside, it's 28 years of work made solid. Every mile of that factory bunk and every gas station meal transformed into granite and hot water and a bed worth sleeping in. In a few minutes, the diesel will rumble to life and the house will pull onto the interstate and disappear east toward a delivery in Omaha. One man, one machine, and 3,000 more miles before he sees his own driveway again. Whether that sounds like a prison or like freedom probably says more about you than it does about him. Ray stopped asking the question a long time ago. He just pours the coffee, releases the brakes, and goes to work 300 days a year in the most expensive home on 18 wheels. If you want to see the other side of this equation, what happens to the drivers who bet everything on a truck and lost it all, that video is on your screen right now.